It's me again. Today's date is December 12th, 2022. It's a Saturday, early Saturday morning. Maybe not early for some, but early for me making a video and not sleepy much. Let me preface this by saying it's not financial advice. You are following me along with my journey. This is One Bird's Thoughts. It's entertainment, hence I wear a costume. Are you not entertained? So let's go over what happened the past 2 days, essentially, what happened yesterday. I made a video Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, how the process of MMTLP should have worked for Friday and Monday, and why there was specific language that said if you sell MMTLP on either Friday or Monday, you lose the share to NextBridge, and if you buy it, you lose the share to NextBridge, right? The books had to be balanced. And DTCC's job, and on the OTC, you have two entities. You have FINRA, who regulates the trading on the OTC, and the DTCC, who balances the books. So, to many people's surprise, as FINRA made a specific language adjustment the afternoon of Thursday the 8th, DTCC said yes, because we balanced the books. We like this adjustment. Corporate notice goes out from the DTCC almost instantly. Great. Buy buttons, start going away that evening. Okay. The caveat about your position or buy to close if you're short. They say okay. Later on that night, very early in the morning, FINRA puts a halt, and I'll put it here. They put a halt on MMTLP. They killed the last 2 days of trading, which they guaranteed hours before. And they say it was an extraordinary event, U3, which was the first U3 that happened in quite some time. The settlement process of the shares, I guess, wasn't an issue hours before. I made calls about it Thursday when no corporate action had come out yet. Where's that corporate action? The clock's ticking. And then I posted this saying that the DTCC wanted a letter from the transfer agent. Then they'll send out the corporate action. I said, okay, that's interesting. A letter from the transfer agent. While that certainly perked my interest, I said, that's interesting. And then yesterday, that trading halt happened from FINRA. Now we're caught up. I talked about how the books would be reconciled. So FINRA can't balance the books, right? They can't balance the books. It's DTCC's job. FINRA regulates the trading, so these two can come to an impasse. And I called up AST and DTCC, and I was back, forth, made some other calls, back, forth. I wasn't calling to change things. I wasn't calling to complain. I was mining for information. That's how I did it. I was nice to people because I was mining for information. I wasn't calling to complain. I was mining for information. Any crumb I can get, right? Because information's quite the commodity. Information's the commodity, and if you get a crumb, you can leverage that crumb to get more information elsewhere. And then you have 2 crumbs you can now leverage to get more information elsewhere. After several calls, I got back to the DTCC and I spoke with a woman there. And I presented her the proposition of what happens if the books aren't reconciled and MMTLP is supposed to go away. MMTLP was supposed to be deleted after the books were reconciled on the stroke of midnight on December 13th. MMTLP goes away. And I told her, well, what happens if the books aren't reconciled? Instead of this book says 165 and the AST book says 165.5 million. That's supposed to say 165.5 million to go into AST. See my previous video. What if, like I said, it's a total of 415.5 million, which includes the, outstanding shares plus all the failed to delivers, lended shares, naked shorts, however you want to say it, synthetic, those type of synthetic shares. What if that book doesn't get reconciled? and there's only 165.5 seats on the bus. She told me, well, that's a matter for AST to handle. So what happens if there's only 165 shares allowed in the exchange? But there's 300, there's 165 million shares in the exchange. That's the private company. But there's 300 million shares that are trying to be exchanged. What happens then if, like, nothing gets done?
Well, that's where the transfer agent comes in, because DTC is only going to be responsible for the ones that we do have registered to CDN code.
Okay, right.
Anything else that is not registered to CDN code has to be handled by the transfer agent or the issuer.
Okay, so the transfer agent or the issuer has to handle that. Interesting. Thank you so much, Lucille. You've really helped with that. How this outcome. Okay, well, thank you so much, Lucille. Appreciate it.
Okay. You're so welcome, and good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Okay.
Bye. Okay, so here's where the conundrum comes in. DTCC told me that any share that they had registered there, they handle. And then you have the transfer agent. All the IOUs outstanding. I have 5 mealworms. They get lended out. He sees 3 mealworms in the account. She sees 2 mealworms in her account. I see 5 in my account still, but they've been lended out. There should be 5 mealworms, but now you have theoretical 10 mealworms going around, right? This is why the DTCC, because these are all valid IOUs, okay? They are all valid IOUs. He's owed something, he bought it. She's owed something, she bought it. I owe something, I bought it, I have it. We're all owed something. These are all valid IOUs. DTCC handles the IOUs. As long as the IOU has a number tied to it, they handle it. If the number comes from the CDN code, they handle it. The IOU. That's why NextBridge isn't going to be DTCC eligible. It doesn't have that registration with CDN code. Okay, NextBridge is private. That's why it's kept at AST. Great. But of course, FINRA halted trading. And there is the very real possibility that AST, the seats on AST are already full. There's 165 million seats on AST for NextBridge. There could be 415 million. That's the naked shares, essentially failed to deliver, plus the outstanding shares. DTCC was supposed to reconcile it, but it got axed by FINRA. So here we are. We are left with the possibility that AST is full. But the DTCC should still handle this, the reconciliation of the shares, and that's what she was referring to. And it took me a couple times to do this video because that is the possibility. IBKR sent this notice out saying that they can't register the shares right now. And lots of people are having problems directly registering their shares. The transfer agent kicks it back to the brokerage. The brokerage says, well, we're not doing that right now. For the big possibility that the AST got filled up because there's that many mealworms, theoretical mealworms circulating around. And that's where that new Q-SIP comes from that IBKR issued. It's not NextBridge Q-SIP. NextBridge doesn't have a Q-SIP. As told to you by Lucille, that's not going to be registered at DTCC. It's not going to have a CDNCO number tied to it. That's up to AST. That's held at AST. Physical seat on NextBridge held at AST. Okay, that's fine. But until this mess gets resolved now, it has to sit in your brokerage account, and it can't sit there without a Q-SIP number, hence a Q-SIP number is tied to it. NextBridge won't have a Q-SIP number, but this right now isn't NextBridge. It's still MMTLP. The MMTLP current Q-SIP gets deleted on Tuesday. It could still change. It might not get deleted. But proactively, IBKR has said, well, if it does get deleted, this is going to be sitting around until the issue is resolved. We'll be proactive. We're going to issue a Q-SIP just as a way to manage that share in your account because it needs a Q-SIP to sit in your account. That's where AST comes in. We'd all have AST accounts because those shares don't have a Q-SIP. Hence, we'd all get AST accounts. So I hope that clears some of that confusion up as to why there's a liability Q-SIP, why IBKR has a Q-SIP, why all this talk about a Q-SIP coming about is happening. It's because the brokerages are realizing that the next bridge bus might be full, and it's not the original Torchlight shares. We've debunked that. To say that Torchlight had only 165 million shares with the Series A preferred tied to it would mean that you agree that all the shares were reconciled and all the short positions were closed at merger, which we've discovered did not happen. So there are more IOUs for the original Torchlight shares than there are Torchlight shares on the books. There's more IOUs. AST registered your MMTLP for NextBridge on a first come first serve basis. My friend Gray, he bought 100 MMTLPs and then he was able to register with NextBridge no problem. The NextBridge shares wasn't if you own Torch shares or not from way back when. It was first come first serve, and that bus very likely got filled up. How this would be handled is that who's ever lent out shares, once a distribution happens, you owe that distribution. Let's say a distribution of $5. Okay, you owe $5, and everybody who has an IOU gets $5, right? The owed shares, the distributions to the owed shares that whoever lent those shares has to pay should match. No, it should match. And then when a company goes private, like Twitter or Dole Pineapple, you have a buyout price of like $65, $56. The company will pay that to the holders, but everybody who has an IOU gets paid from the borrower, whoever shorted that. They have to pay, right? And then the shares get reconciled. NextBridge is set up a bit differently. MMTLP to NextBridge is a private company, but instead of these self-issued things with the brokers, it's now a physical seat on the bus. It's either designed to force the closeout of these naked shares or expose it. What happened when the nuclear button got pushed by FINRA? It exposed it. It exposed it. So what can we do from here? We could allow trading. Okay. We could allow trading. If not everybody sells their shares, then what do we do with the people who didn't sell their shares? And the AST bus is full. What do? You could pay them whatever the distribution is from the sale of the Oro Grande. But if you read this, it says everybody will be entitled to a share of NextBridge, right? Not a distribution, but a share of NextBridge, right? Not like a monetary distribution. Not a buyout price, you get a share of NextBridge. So you have this conundrum. You could either allow trading or do a monetary distribution, but the fact is that they were owed a share in a private company, and that isn't still satisfied. That's the conundrum here. It'll be very interesting to see how this is resolved, right? And there's a couple of different possibilities. I don't want to talk about them yet or delve into those possibilities yet. I want to see what the Meta legal team can come up with very shortly. I know they're working at it this weekend. They're burning the midnight oil on the weekend. We'll see what happens. But that's where we are right now. I'm just telling you what I found. And again, it's not financial advice. This is my own opinion. You're just watching One Bird's thoughts. I will see you soon. Goodbye.